What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another Beta Memoirs. And as you can see, the market got a little red towards the close at bell, but it is still playing range. Nonetheless, it is Thanksgiving week. It is a holiday week, so the volume is low. And we do have a lot of data coming out of Wednesday, but most importantly is today. Uh, Biden announced that Powell will continue to remain the Fed chair. Now that we're getting a little bit of market digestion, I think Brainerd. A lot of people were, I think, kind of hoping Brainerd would have came in because she would have more than likely started spending more money. At least that's what the consensus was. But when it comes to Powell, a lot of people still don't like that Powell is not taking any action, although they do believe that rate raises may be coming into play. We've heard talks of Fed doing two different rate raises next year. Towards the end of the year, I've also heard that next month they could be moving that up sooner, but that'll be discussed next month. That might ultimately be what the catalyst is going forward now that Powell has been officially essentially reinstated. So being said, where do we go from here? The market is still very bullish, but in my opinion, we have to have the digestion of the markets. Yes, everybody knows what to expect from Powell, but again, I think they would have enjoyed Brainerd being in there because of the fact that the thesis would have been that she would have been spending more money. But nonetheless, we have Powell, and where do we go from here? We have the debt ceiling, which is another issue, which is about 3 weeks away. So you got some stuff going on, inflation. There's a lot of different things going on. The market may not just like the fact that Powell isn't doing anything, and maybe their hopes that with Brainerd there would have been some kind of difference and she would have done something. Maybe they would have been able to persuade her. Who knows? Nonetheless, they know what they're getting with Powell, and right now he hasn't collapsed and given in to essentially the rest of the other Fed members and them raising rates. So maybe that's what we're seeing. Maybe the market just doesn't like that. Maybe the market wants the rates to be raised, and now with Powell back, they're not going to see that. Again, you can speculate as much as you want, but ultimately right now, I'm pretty much 50-50. I still think we can sell. I'm still bullish as long as we hold above this 46.30, 38 mark here. It still plays us in range. And again, with the low volume and the holiday week, we might get a decent morning, and then we might just die out the rest of the week. That's very strong possibility. Low volume, you're only going to see so many things pumping. All the money's essentially going to go where the volume is, and aside from that, everything else will kind of just be stagnant. So you have to be mindful of that. A lot of people take this week off because of that fact. So you have to wait and see. I think, again, we're still at a point to where the market looked weak. The price action looked weak. Even this morning, I did take puts this morning, but it died out very slowly. It essentially killed the premium on my puts this morning because it was just so slow. You could see the action just die. Everything stalled. You had your Teslas and your Apples that pushed right out the gate, and then they just died. And then we got this massive move towards the end of the day, and was a very fast candle. So again, I think we could actually come back up and retest this 647 for 4,700 mark, and then actually come all the way back down again to that 46.38 mark is what I'm thinking tomorrow. Gap down. I don't know if we're going to gap down. It might just trade sideways and push down. I don't think it's going to be any kind of crazy movement. This was a crazy candle towards the end of the day, but again, it may be digestion. Maybe they don't like Powell, and it does gap down to here. If it breaks this, though, I think it'll be interesting. Then we can go back down to the 50. I really like the market around the 50 if we could get that far. Again, we've had these parabolic moves. Just been absolutely ridiculous. Yes, there's a lot of money in the system. Some tapering has already started. Whatever the case is, again, I don't think we're going to crash. I'm not coming at this as we're going to crash. We need a pullback, and we need a pretty healthy one. So one at least down to the 50 would be great. So 45, 60 would be great. But we'll see. We have to see. We have to get through this first to see if this support holds. If it does hold, then we'll make it down to the next one. We've been holding that 50 pretty well, so I'm not really concerned. I'm not worried about the market breaking the 50 and selling off. I think even early next year, I think the corrections, like I talked about throughout this year, was the fact that the corrections would be very diluted, and they were that. I think we might get a little bit more of a correction next year. But again, also depending, because there was lockdown talks as well today in Europe. So there's a lot of catalysts coming up that people may be missing. And so the stay-at-home plays, you're starting to see some strength in them. But because if Europe locks down, more than likely, the theory is about 4 weeks after that is when typically we lock down. If Europe decides to lock down, the U.S. essentially decides to lock down. I don't know how that's going to work. Again, it's just a theory. Could be a possibility. Nothing is 100%. So being said, Bitcoin definitely breaking some supports. I do believe it can hold. Talked about this the other day. I do believe it can come pretty far down, possibly even hit this 200. It can come down to 46,000 and still be bullish. Just as long as we hold above essentially this low here is what matters. I mean, we can very well hit it and then wick right back up and then start continuing bullish. That's what I'm thinking on the market. Now, as much as a lot of people may want the market to just go up, yes, it is very bullish. I understand it's very bullish, but it still has to pull back. Stuff still gets tired. We just had earnings. Things need to cool off a little bit. And then from that point, yes, I'm still continuing to be bullish. I'm just waiting for that pullback. And ultimately, again, around this year, around the holidays, it is very quiet. There isn't a lot of volume, so that's something to keep in mind. Again, inflation, I think, was a big driver of Bitcoin, but I think eventually what's going to happen with this is gaming is going to kind of pick Bitcoin up and allow it to go all-time high. Inflation is, again, still a gauge. We're getting numbers that are showing inflation is transitory to some extent. So being said, I don't really know how much. There's not really a true catalyst to keep pushing Bitcoin from this part, aside from mass adoption in gaming at this point. And metaverse, so we have to see how metaverse in the gaming side kind of play out and everything. Tesla had that great breakout, and now it is starting to retract. I'm actually looking for an entry here around that 1070 or 1069 would be a good entry for this to get in a retest on this. And then Tesla go to all-time highs. Again, if you watch this on any time frame, you always get the breakout. You're going to have that great candle. This candle is going to come down and retest, sometimes really close, sometimes comes fairly close, and then it gaps up. So you have to really watch it. As soon as it gets that 1090 mark and see where about that point it starts to pop back up. So all the FANG, I definitely want to watch. Again, this is where your strength's going to be. The rest of the market's been pretty chopped up. Apple not looking good on the daily, right? It got rejected hard. I think this can come all the way back down, 53 possibly for another leg up. We can't just go completely parabolic and run all the way to 200. So as much as I think a lot of people want that to happen, you have to be mindful. Even with something like Tesla, there's a lot of drive behind Tesla, but it's not going to go straight up. It does need a rest, consolidate before it starts making pushes up. So we'll have to see. Facebook has kind of been a pain in the butt, to be honest. It keeps getting rejected here at essentially at 353 mark. So we want to see what it does moving forward. Square, I grabbed this at the bottom. I captured the small move back down here. I did like the support down here. As long as it holds the 206 mark, may look to re-enter this. I'm looking for this to actually come back and do a retest of the 235. Let's see. Google has been holding the 50 fairly well, but I don't like the fact that it broke the trend here and broke down. Now we hit the 29, 22, 23 mark. Tomorrow, maybe we get a gap up and a retest from underneath, and then we start getting some more selling. But when it does come around that 50, it does Google does hold the 50 fairly well. So the 28, 68, again, that's going to change, obviously, with the days and the action that's going on. That support will change, but you're roughly looking around that 28.70 mark. Roblox selling off. First support, first strong daily support is way down here at the 105 mark. And we have to see what this starts basing and creating a new base. There's this big gap. Again, we're going to see it back below 100. I think it's very much possible because of the fact the metaverse and the timing of the earnings and Roblox Day, and again, the talks with about the metaverse with Zuckerberg kind of really gassed this up to 141. I think it's going to come down and find new base. It's just waiting and being patient. The metaverse stuff is still years out. This thing isn't going to go parabolic and hit 500. It'll be a while before I think that really starts to happen. Sooner than some people think, but I think it still has some time to pull back. It's not going to make that move now. It's still a ways away. UPST holding that 200 mark. I did play this as well, but looking for this to, if it continues to hold the 200, I will enter this again and then look for that pushback to, I'd probably say the 265 mark as what I'm looking at for now. E-commerce took a big hit today, pretty much like everything else. It is a pretty strong support here at the 1565. One thing to keep in mind, right, is we didn't have much of a pre-earnings run up on these. Shop had kind of a pre-earnings and then started selling off and had this parabolic move. In my opinion, I think, right, this is all the move we're going to get. We're going into the holiday season. A lot of volume is going to die off. I think that this can come back down, possibly even hit that 50 before it starts running again. But just to be mindful, I mean, it could change every day. This is why I have the daily updates. Everything changes. There's new news. Again, we got the Powell information today, kind of changes stuff. The digestion and how the whales will move forward essentially from this point. But as far as everything else, Moderna has been out of control, especially if there's starting to be lockdowns. This might start gaining a lot more traction. So something to keep on watch is as long as it holds that 272 mark, I think we can continue to go up from that point. Again, if everything else starts selling off, Moderna could definitely get some gas, especially if there's rumors of lockdown. NVIDIA is finally starting to lose some gas here. I think all these ones have reported. So I can see another week or two of just selling. Or possibly pick back up, selling this week or going flat this week, and then going into next week, possibly getting some traction, start pushing back up. So we have to see how that plays out. But NVIDIA has been running really hot. I think it does. A lot of these need cool downs to kind of stabilize the premiums. The premiums are really jacked, especially from earnings right now. And you want to talk about some jacked premiums. You look at Tesla and the premiums are so high right now. So just it needs to chill out and it needs to consolidate for a while for the premiums to die down and then go from that point. So that is pretty much what I got. Again, looking tomorrow, FANG. I want to see market digestion with Powell coming back. And again, we got FOMC minutes on Wednesday. Short week, low volume. You have to be very cautious because a lot of these moves, just if it does not have volume, it's going to be a long week. That's just your forewarning. I kind of talked about that on the weekly update. So that's what I got. Be mindful, take care, and I'll see you on the field.